Hey, David, what kind of tree are you?
Kind of tree. Um, Boy, I mean, it feels like I would like to be a mighty oak tree. You know, that would be that'd be that's a noble thing to aspire to, right? A cedar of Lebanon. There we go. That's what I'd like to be.
Ooh, okay. So let's psychoanalyze you now. A cedar of Lebanon. We can come back to the fact you started with an oak, but then you found something better. So maybe there's some second guessing going on in your ontological existence.
That's certainly true. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I am. What about you? What kind of tree are you?
Well, I took this World Wildlife is it Federation? No, that's WWF. World Wildlife Fund. WWF growing up was always the Worldwide Wrestling, Federation,
Yeah,
and then
right.
they had to change it, and I was like, this is great. Like I've never heard of this World Wildlife Fund until they sued to make them change it to WWE. But I took this WWF test, and it told me I'm a Douglas fir.
Okay. I wonder what the reason is, because so Douglas fir grows quickly. Construction grade lumber is all Douglas fir, right? So every project I've ever done has been made of Douglas fir.
Am I your project?
You're you're a very functional you're a very functional kind of person.
Well, it
Useful.
makes sense because I love Christmas. I mean, I can't get enough of it.
Okay, so now this is a silly side question, but I was wondering if Douglas firs make good Christmas trees. Do you know? Because I don't remember ever seeing Douglas fir in a Christmas tree lot. All kinds of other trees, blue spruce.
Well, good for you. I actually have a tab open right now that's to the Google search Douglas for Christmas tree,
Uh huh.
and it appears that yes,
Okay, that's good to know.
they do make Christmas trees. I mean, I'm not a Christmas tree expert, but I think so. Now this is fun. I do think this is relevant because I'm asking the question because of the oaks of Mamre here in Genesis 18. But like, how many times in the Bible are human beings likened to trees?
Right. I was just as I was thinking about the cedar of Lebanon, I was thinking about the parable in Second Chronicles. Yeah, a thistle on Lebanon sent to a cedar on Lebanon, right? And the wild beast runs by. You've got similarly in Judges, right? Who is it? Jephthah tells this parable about trees.
Yeah, I love that parable. And the trees take on personalities. And it's the bramble tree that ends up dominating everything, which is such a good parable because there's no fruit there, and I mean thorns and thistles are just destructive, and we know people like this. They just come in and they destroy everything.
It's low cost to destroy. Destruction is cheap, right?
Yeah,
And
speaking
that's what bramble
speaking
is
of
like.
which, landscaping. How do you feel about stones just like all over the yard?
So I find myself so I do love the look of a well manicured yard, but I'm not interested in doing it with grass. That is to say, as I've raised livestock, when I see grass, I think that's mowed. I think what a waste of good eating. And so I'd rather have stones than grass that gets mowed. How about that?
Oh man, you are such a utilitarian. It makes me sick.
No. Because in fact, so the thing is that well manicured monoculture grass is highly unnatural, right? So it's not about utility. It's not purely utilitarian. It's very nature oriented. Because if you have animals that are grazing, you end up with a not a mono but a multiculture, polyculture, and that's the way the yard is supposed to be.
Oh, according to who?
Okay, well now that'd be another question, right? Interesting. Hmm.
Is there anything better than freshly mown grass?
I mean, I agree. Like I get it, and I think I could see myself being a 55-year-old man who picks up every leaf on his yard in his loafers. I think I could do that. Like I understand it. I appreciate it. Right.
I mean, that's how I see you right now as a 55-year-old man.
I I don't own a pair of loafers, so I'm not there yet.
Yet. But the good news is, if you're a 55-year-old tree, hey, you got a long time to go. How old are
Right.
red those red trees out in California?
Yep. Yep. Very even up at the farm, we've got oak trees that are 150 years old, and you can see them on the aerial photography taken by the U of M, in the 1940s, which is really awesome. That's really cool.
Oh, that is cool. It's so cool to think about. This tree was here when George
Yeah.
Washington was around, or whoever was walking
Right.
around.
Right.
So
So
when you talk
besides,
about trees,
go ahead, go for it.
I was gonna say, like, the qualities, the characteristics that we're gonna want to consider. So the lumber, obviously, hardwood, softwood, is it good for construction? And then the other pertinent question biblically would be, what kind of fruit does it produce?
Right, because I was thinking
And then
besides
also shade.
yeah, yeah. Beside the particular species of trees that are mentioned, you also just get the generically fruitful tree, right? A tree planted by streams of water that bears its fruit in season, and then you've, like you mentioned just now, Jonah gets shaded by it's a gourd plant, right? But the birds nest in the tree, and that's the Lord taking care of the birds by giving them trees to nest in. Yeah.
Right. And then the parable of the mustard tree, right? We're told that, you're going to be like this, and then the trees are going to come rest in you, which is an interesting comparison point.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Interesting.
So
So
I
you
had
remember?
to I okay, sorry, I just have to say, I had to Google the question: is an acorn a fruit? And I was like, I think the answer is yes, and it turns out it is, but it's just so unusual.
So now, I mean, the fruit is one of those words that is ambiguous, right? So what is the definite, based on your definition of a fruit? What's the technical definition of a fruit? Has it seed on the inside, right? That's the thing.
No, the technical definition is, if it seems like a vegetable, then it's really a fruit.
I gotcha. Okay. Have we talked before? Here's another thing about trees. Talked before about the mycorrhizal fungi network that is in a healthy soil or ecosystem, so that the mother oak tree drops her acorns, and she can distinguish between her saplings and other oak tree saplings and send nutrition their way. It's really an incredible thing.
Oh, yeah. Were you reading a book on that recently?
Yes, I was. What a plant knows, but that's like a bigger topic about yeah, I mean fungi, just generally speaking. But anyways, that's also interesting because I mean it's remarkable, isn't it, that the trees are personified in the scriptures, and then of course we've got J.R.R. Tolkien, who gives us walking trees, in fact, and you
Yeah.
wonder, like you really do kind of wonder.
Yeah, that's right. And then Lewis picks up on that in Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. He's like, "Well, Mr. Beaver says we can't talk out here because the trees are listening."
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. And in the newly conceived Narnia, uh, everything grows into a tree, right? You drop something on the ground, and it grows into a tree that produces, you know, something of that sort. Interesting.
it's just a it's just a way much better way to live, when everything is personified, right? like just
Yeah,
more
yeah, it
fascinating.
is.
Wonder.
Right. Although there are hazards. I was listening to my kids kids were in the car with me on the way to Home Depot yesterday, the two littlest ones, and they wanted to listen to a story. So I pulled up a podcast that had children's stories, and one of them was Beatrix Potter, Peter Rabbit, and that's an interesting. Uh, so the way that the story is told, um, the personification of Peter Rabbit doesn't leave us with much sympathy for the character. He's a naughty little rabbit, and if he got caught by Farmer McGregor and turned into a pie, he'd be getting what he deserves. But if you watch like the most recent film version of Peter Rabbit, personification of Peter Rabbit makes it so that he's more human than Farmer McGregor. Right? Farmer McGregor is the inhumane one, and the harm threatened against the rabbit is the inhumane action, when he's not actually a human. It's just a rabbit.
So, are you wanting to make a comment on immigration policy?
No, I don't know how. I don't know what comment I can make about that.
Okay, I was just wondering where you're going
Oh,
with it.
fences and borders. No, I was just thinking about the hazards of personification. But also, so back to trees. You talked about function and fruit. Fruit is interesting. Is an interesting feature of trees because, as Jesus tells us, the tree bears fruit according to its nature. Right. So, a good tree bears good fruit, and a bad tree bears bad fruit. And that's so it's almost as if that we need to do the reverse. And instead of personifying trees, we need to like botanize humans, because the fact is that you produce things according to your nature, and we like to imagine that we exercise a lot more agency over what we produce, when in fact we're much more like trees, and that is we produce whatever's in us.
Oh yeah, it's of course that's really good. Botanize the human. So the miracle then of conversion would be it's really transplanting. Like you become ontologically something different, which is the real miracle.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. And it's great because the we can come up with these approximations for it, right? Like, so you could take one kind of tree, trunk, and graft in a different kind of fruit bearing branch, but it's still not like the tree left to its own devices would produce other branches that are of its original nature, right? So it's not quite the same thing as what happens in conversion. It's a complete replacement of the tree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so temple, we've got three different types of wood, right? We got cypress and cedar, which would be the typical construction, strong, big trees. So that's to keep the enemies out. But then in the holy place, and most holy places is olive wood. Is that because so out of those three trees, it's the olive tree which produces fruit. So that's what you want in
Mm.
the sacred place, the womb, if you would.
Yeah, that makes sense. And this christening fruit, right? So you get definitely a focus, uh, high value placed on the vine that produces grapes and the tree that produces olives. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Um, Green olives or black olives for you?
Green olives
Okay.
with like a chunk of mozzarella in there or something like that. That's good.
Ooh, nice. I blue cheese is really good too when it's stuffed in the
Sure.
olive.
Yeah.
So
On
yeah,
a skewer in a Bloody Mary, that's even better.
that's true. I mean, green olives just objectively have more flavor. I mean, black olives are fine. They're just like a fine filler, whatever. But
Yeah, you put them diced on your taco. That's what they're good for. But a good green olive, you can eat all on its own. Stands on its own. Yeah.
okay, so I'm thinking about this concept then of so like extra virgin olive oil means it's only squeezed once, and then the more you squeeze it, you're gonna get more oil. But then the thing is the quality of the oil goes down. So Gethsemane means a is it a wine press of oil or is it an oil press of wine? I think it's a wine press of oil, which also comes up in Judges too, right? They gotta press it. But I mean, the picture is like Jesus goes to Gethsemane, this oil press, and he is just getting he's just getting squeezed. And the miracle there is it's like he never runs out of oil, which of course is a great Old Testament image of Elijah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and he's only pressed once, right? the, there's no re-sacrifice needed, right? Once and for all into the most holy place, and this pure. Yeah, that's great. I wonder if they characterized the quality of oil in the same way that we do now. If they did it in the ancient world, I'm sure they did. They had high standards for these kinds of things. Um, but that's remarkable, right? This first pressing is the only pressing that you need.
Oh, well, and then you could apply that to all sorts of things like vinyl pressing, right? Limited edition, and yet, so it's like the rarest thing in the entire world, and yet it's freely available. I mean, that's the crazy thing about the gospel. I mean, this is the rarest, most beautiful jewel offered to literally everyone on the planet, and yet who actually takes the wedding invitation?
That's right. Yeah, and in fact, what do? I mean, they choose to attend to things that are limited, that are that are seasonal, right? So an oxen in the field and the wife, these things that are temporal, and when there's an eternal feast that's being prepared, right? Which of
Yes.
course connects us to the trees that we get in Revelation, right? How many different kinds of fruit are on that tree in Revelation? It's 12, right?
12. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, just by
Yeah.
the by, thinking about numbers real quick. I've been
Oh,
working
we'll
on
get there.
Psalms
Oh, yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, of course we got to talk about numbers later, but working on Psalms for Sunday morning Bible class, and uh, James Jordan, got to give him all the credit, has uncovered for me the significance of a number that we have overlooked, or at least not mentioned in all of our discussion of numbers. So you got 3, 7, 12, 17, 10, right? Those are all numbers that we have appreciated. 22, the number of letters in the Hebrew alphabet, is also highly significant. Uh,
Yeah.
so Alpha and Omega, Aleph and Tav. Um, he observed that Urim and Thummim, the stones on the priest's garb, Aleph and Tav, right? But also in various psalms. For instance, in Psalm 1, the first word and the last word, I think is something like that, or the first line and the last line begin with Aleph and Tav. And so James Jordan's thesis is that the arrangement of the psalms in the books, the 5 books of the Psalter, uh, centers around this alphabetical numbering of things, and so you can parse it into sets of 22s and 17s and so on, which is it's really helpful for kind of the reason why that's helpful is because it allows you to um, place psalms in a smaller context. And like if you're picking psalms out of the Psalter, out of 150 psalms, they just sort of sit in this morass of poetry. But if you've got 5 discrete books and each of them is carefully structured, right? So for instance, the second book contains 7 psalms by the sons of Korah and 1 psalm by Asaph, and then 20 psalms by David and 1 psalm by Solomon. And like all of a sudden you've got this micro context as opposed to just finding psalms within the whole book of the Psalter. Anyway, another time, 22, we should talk more about. But this is fascinating to think about.
No, that's great. I love the structure of the Psalter. So I'd be curious to learn more about that because it's obviously arranged in a way that the redactor, whoever that is, I don't know. Do you think Ezra did that or?
Yeah, I don't know. I was just reading about Ezra and Nehemiah in preparation for Wednesday morning Bible class, and I just like this. It's such a swirl. I don't know. I don't know how to put it all together. Not sure. Yeah. Um, you'll appreciate this as well, though. For the first book of the Psalter, you've got 2 pairs of psalms. So every psalm in the first book of the Psalter has a heading, like a Psalm of David, except for Psalm 1, Psalm 2, Psalm 10, and Psalm 33. For Psalm 10 and Psalm 33, it appears that they don't have headings because they go with the previous psalm. So Psalm 10 goes with Psalm 9, which carries the heading for both of them. Likewise, Psalm 33 doesn't have a heading because it goes with 32, which carries the heading for both of them. That explains those 2. And then you get Psalm 1, which is an introduction to the whole book of Psalms. And then Psalm 2, which is an introduction to the first book of Psalms. It's a royal psalm, right? Kiss the Son, lest he be angry and you perish in the way. So that leaves then from the first book of the Psalms, which has 42 psalms in it, minus 2 for those pairs, and minus 2 for Psalms 1 and 2. You end up with 38 psalms, I think, is the total. And the central psalm in the first book is Psalm 22, which is, I mean, it's kind of nice, but also a very emblematic psalm, right? No surprise that would be the center of the chiasm in book 1 of the Psalter. Just great stuff.
Oh, that is good. Well, I did know this fact. I did know that there are 116 of the 150 psalms have superscriptions. So I wonder if that's the case with all of the psalms. That whenever there's not a superscription, it's meant to go with the psalm above it.
I like the theory. You end up with differing traditions that give us more or fewer superscriptions, right? So it depends on whether you're looking in the Masoretic text or the Septuagint or whatever it might be. So it's a little bit hard to discern, but yeah, I like the theory. So
Yeah, well, I'm the ESV is authoritative for me, so.
absolutely, that's right. Sorry for the diversion there. Well, you were going to say
No,
more about trees,
well, no, well, well, of course, like how does Psalm 1 start? That
right?
compares a righteous man to a tree. So I mean, it's very pertinent. Um,
And then
what was like?
Revelation trees. We were talking about 12 fruits in Revelation.
Oh, yes, yeah. 12 different types of fruit, each in its own season, which is amazing thing. So it's like in heaven, it's always fruitful all of the time. So
We
no winter, presumably. Although, is there going to be snow? And and if there is, then this tree's got to adapt, which is kind of fun. I like skiing. I mean, enjoying God, the beatific vision is enough for me. So I'm not going to be one of those who complains about it. But any
So
comments?
there are some kinds of plants that can survive a mild frost and be fruitful. Um, but also Jesus's incident with the fig tree that he curses for not bearing fruit, even though it's not the season, tells you something about how things change in the presence of Jesus. That like whenever Jesus is around, it's the season for bearing fruit, regardless of the conditions.
Oh, that's good. Okay. And since he is the source of the light, which is essential for photosynthesis, it's always going to be season for growing. Yeah, that's great. What a
Excellent.
You've made me a Christian again, David.
And that's the Oaks of Mamre, which is the first verse of 18, right? Genesis 18. The Lord appeared to Moses, or not Moses, Abraham, by the Oaks of Mamre as he sat
Yeah,
at
I
the
mean,
tent of
this
his
is.
door of his tent the other day.
I think this is such a good way to read the Bible, though, is to just go tree hopping. So you go from the Garden of Eden with the two types of trees to this, and then all through all the ones we talked about, and then obviously it all comes together in the cross of Christ. It's no accident that our Lord was a carpenter. He knows what he's doing with a
Right.
tree.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
And so you have the Lord, because we know one of these men is the Lord, because it says the Lord appeared to him. And then the two other are angels. Genesis 19:1, the two angels. I think that's probably the easiest way of understanding this. It's a theophany, God appearing with two angels. Um, but it's him appearing to a tree. I mean, this is just perfect.
Him appearing to a tree.
Well, yeah, like there's a tree, and God's like, yeah, this is how I'm going to reveal myself by a
Ah,
tree.
gotcha. By a tree. Yeah, there you go. What's the collect, not the collect, the preface for is it for Holy Week that he who by a tree overcame might likewise by the tree of the cross be overcome? Is that how it goes? Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you get you
Yeah.
you get this thematic thing. That's great. I hadn't really thought about it before, but it's thematic in the same way that, like, for instance, when you get a meeting that takes when the Lord appears to somebody at a well, or there's a meeting at a well. This is bridal imagery. So how would you describe then the um, the kind of appearance, the kind of theophany that takes place in proximity of a tree? What would it be? Is it a matter of judgment?
I think it. I think it's. I mean, I think it's sacrificial. So, like that parable in Judges, for instance, all the sons are going to die, right? That's the sacrifice. That's what he's telling them. Fig tree dies, and then obviously the cross, the ultimate sacrifice. What yeah, how else could we point? If you count the bush, the bramble as a tree, certainly Genesis 22 with Isaac, the ram caught in the thicket. So I think there is a sacrificial element there.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so now I'm thinking also about how well, you got John, the axe is laid at the root of the tree, and in Isaiah 6, when Isaiah is in the throne room, the question is how long will I preach, and they will have dull ears, and it is until there's what does he say, until there's nothing left except the stump. Is that how he puts it? And so then out of the stump, the root of Jesse, right? Until cities lie waste, though a tenth remain, it will be burned again, like a terebinth or an oak. whose stump remains when it is felled. The holy seed is its stump. So the destruction of the tree is also a critical part of God's interaction with trees. Yeah.
Right. And so the key there's destruction, but one tree is destroyed to give way to another. So if we're going to read in Isaiah the suffering servant as Israel, and I understand Christ is Israel reduced down to one, but the point is, like, Israel is supposed to be this nation of priests who is to sacrifice themselves for salvation of the entire world. And so it makes total sense that, the tree is going to have to disappear so that the whole world can be grafted in.
Yeah, that's interesting to contemplate. We just finished from our Wednesday morning Bible class, Second Kings and Second Chronicles. So we read starting in Genesis 1, start in October 2019, and we just finished Second Chronicles and Second Kings this last week. And one of the themes that recurs, one of the recurring questions during the time of the wicked kings is, what about the faithful remnant? Like, what's life like for them? And it's interesting that you really don't hear much. There's not much description of their faithfulness. I mean, when Hilkiah comes to Josiah and says, "We found the book of the law," there's no comment about anybody having remembered any of this. And so there's this, your suggestion that the suffering servant is Israel makes sense to me if we consider that there were faithful people in Israel who were diminished. Like they were diminished not by their sin, but because of the sin of the people. They were brought low so that there was nothing left. But for their faithfulness, however, the whole thing would have gone under, right? There were some faithful. So that, like, Zechariah is doing his service, and Simeon is waiting for the consolation of Israel, right? Anna has been praying in the temple in the entirety of her widowhood.
Yeah. Huh. Why are you so depressed?
Why do you think I'm depressed? It's a great story. But here's the thing. So I think that I relish the the tragic elements, because only by seeing the tragic elements fully can you appreciate the glory of the joy, the comedic elements, let's say, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, so we got laughter here. In Genesis 18, you got Sarah laughing, but like the laughter only comes after a life of barrenness, right? So you have this tragedy which gives way to joy. So weeping may tarry the night, but joy comes in the morning. Same thing then later in Genesis. I mean, his name is Laughter, Isaac. But like you only finally get that fully until you go and sacrifice him.
Right. Yeah. Huh. I was thinking that's interesting, that contrast between the laughter before and after, because this is kind of like a bitter kind of laughter, right? With which she's laughing here. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. A bitter kind of laughter, because these people who laugh, and maybe I do it. If I do, I try not to. But they laugh when they disagree with you, like it's a mocking laugh.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, condescending kind of a laugh. Yeah.
Right. And it's so antithetical to laughter, because laughter is supposed to be joy, and that's a laughter that really sucks out the joy of the room.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
But this is, this is humorous. I don't want to go too hard on Sarah, because God doesn't. God seems to be joking with her. I mean,
yeah.
He's like no, but you did laugh. That's how I read it.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? I mean, that's the thing, right? Because it is the kind of thing. Like, she could be laughing because of the unlikelihood of it. Or I was thinking about the kind of laughter that you get in settings. What do you call it when is it a gallows humor? Like where people who work in traumatic situations, like an EMT or whatever, and here they're at a car wreck and there's somebody, whatever, and picture the worst. And because in order to both to cope and also because of their familiarity with it, they'll tell jokes, or they'll laugh. They'll kind of like laugh at the situation. They'll dehumanize it in a way, because what can you do, right? But you can imagine how that would all turn around like in an instant if, for instance, this person who's lying there, they're giving him chest compressions because they think he's dead, and they're telling jokes about how their wrist hurts while they're giving him chest compressions. So they're laughing, and then his heart starts beating again, and now it's a different kind of laughter. It's just like, I thought we were laughing because this was a bitter situation, and now it's like laughter because of joy, right? You could see that very thing playing out, right?
I could, yes.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is happening to Sarah. So.
Well, I'm trying to figure out like which applies. So should we fake it till we make it? Like, is laughter good? I don't think it's not good in every season. Ecclesiastes 3, there's a time for, mourning and certainly laughter too. But if you find yourself in a impossible situation, I mean, maybe laughter is precisely the thing that's going to pull you out, as long as it's God-given laughter.
Yeah, it does. It breaks through the whatever feels intractable. I'm thinking about the Proverbs 31. That's right. She laughs at the time to come. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. That's the faithful woman. Such a great picture, right?
Yeah. Oh, that is good. Can I throw us in another loop here? Because I'm thinking about parable of the Good Samaritan for this upcoming Sunday.
Okay.
And so God appears here to Abraham. It's a theophany. And so what I'm trying to present is the ontological nature of the hypostatic union. Okay, so the fact that God took on human flesh. Okay, there's two natures that come together, and it's 100% of both. Like it's perfectly unionized together, and we don't confuse the substances. Everything we say in the creed, we have these two natures that are held perfectly together. The divine assumes the human. So that ontological reality then helps us see the rest of reality. So what I'm saying is like two things can be true at the same time, precisely because of the incarnation.
Okay. So it forces us to admit of things that we would otherwise consider impossible. And it's not that they're contradictory things, but things that seem mutually exclusive, right? The two things can't occupy the same space at the same time, except now they can, right?
Yep, precisely. Yeah. So why I think that's relevant is because, I mean, the debate is the Good Samaritan parable a salvation parable, or is it an ethical parable? Right? Is it about what God has done for me, or is it about what I'm supposed to do? And of course the answer is, well, yeah. Like it's about both. There's a primary reading, so you have to start with the divine nature of things. So before God ever becomes a human, he's always God. He always has been. So his divine nature precedes his human nature. So before you ever read the ethical reading of the Good Samaritan, you do have to read the salvific part of it. But because God has now saved us, and then Jesus says, you go do and likewise. And then what does Paul say? It's Galatians, right? It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. So now we have this union with Christ. It's like he saved us, and now he's essentially saying, now you go save the world, which I think is incredibly harrowing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's this kind of reflexive character to it, because on the one hand, you have salvation. You've got the Samaritan who's helping the injured man. But what is the injury ultimately, right? Of course, you could think about plain human ethics, base level human ethics, according to natural reason, in fact, which says if a guy's hurt, you should help him. Like if he's suffering from physical ailment, you should help him. But of course, this is a transcendent kind of story, right? Because what is it that God, in His goodness, pays writes a blank check for? It's for our salvation from sin. And our sin is manifest primarily in this way, that when we walk by a man on the side of the road, we don't want to help him. Like we don't want to even do this basic natural human thing, right? That even the Samaritan knows how to do. And yet the rest of us, I mean, look at us, we're so corrupt, which is why when it gets to the point of like, well, you go and do likewise. I realized at some point that the Lutheran instinct was to say, well, you can't. which of course is false. You can. You just don't want to. That's the problem.
Right. Oh, that's great. So, okay, I want to draw an analogy then. So, like, so we offer salvation to the world because this man is beaten half dead, and I think that's a great way of putting the human condition, right? I mean, we're born into this world dead. Obviously, there's
Yeah, left for
carbon, so
dead,
we're
right?
still breathing. Left for dead. So we offer this salvation. At the same time, the disciples ask Jesus, "We left everything. What are we going to get?" And Jesus promises them like physical material goods, right? And then so
Yeah.
likewise in the parable, he said to the innkeeper, take care of whatever needs to be taken care of, and I'll pay you at the end. Um, so I think this is great. So it's like this is directly addressed to German congregations. Like, quit being so stingy. Like, God's gonna repay you in the end. It's okay.
Yeah, and now he'll repay you. He'll also repay you now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
There's this great verse from Psalm 37 that I love. I've been young and now I'm old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken or his children begging for bread. I've not seen the righteous forsaken or his children begging for bread. And then Psalm 112 does the same thing. The blessed is the man who he lends generously and gives to the poor, right? This is how you can see his righteousness, and he lacks for nothing, which is so
Right.
great because it's precisely in your generosity that you lack for nothing. It's in your stinginess that you suffer the very thing you're afraid of. I mean, it's a devilish ploy, right?
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, we just sang hymn of the day yesterday was "If thou but trust in God to guide thee." So the last stanza, God never yet forsook in need the soul that trusted Him indeed.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go. I mean, yeah. I love homiletically how what low hanging fruit that is, right? I mean, he sent his son to die for you. Do you think he's gonna let you suffer unnecessarily things that are bad for you? He sent his son to die for you.
Yeah, we're drawing on a bank that is never going to go bankrupt.
Right. Right. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean that's always the just like the way that stinginess shows up is the imagination that the thing is going to run dry, right? The checking account might I can see a trajectory where the checking account reaches zero, and because I can picture that, that's where the cataclysm takes place. But of course, that checking account, with real dollars in it, is nothing in comparison with the treasury of heavenly goods that you're drawing on.
Oh yeah, that made me really depressed listening to a podcast about Warren Buffett a few years ago. Um, Obviously, if you want to get to know markets and what to do with your portfolio, I mean, study the guy, right? But what made me sad was, and I don't know if this is just my human nature, but he's never spent any of his money, you know.
Uh-huh.
Um, and the takeaway is, and he said this, he liked money for the sake of making more money. Um, I mean, like honestly, like what good is money if you never spend it?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I was thinking something very similar just this morning when I was out on a long drive. I was thinking about the notion of your life ending, or you're like nearing the end of your life and wondering if you had accomplished anything, which I think any honest person, and maybe particularly men, it'd be interesting to compare how men and women think, look retrospectively at their lives. But like you look back and you say, what have I accomplished? And the the thing is that like amassing money, amassing wealth, makes you feel like you're accomplishing something because it's so stinking measurable, right? And it multiplies. I mean, that's like if you're a guy like Warren Buffett and um, you've become convinced that accomplishment is amassing a fortune, you only get better and better at it the more you have. But you actually succeed and you get better at succeeding. That's the reward you get for devoting yourself to money. But at the end, I mean it's just so trite to say it, but like you've got nothing to show for it at all.
I mean, yeah, the best parable for this is the parable of the shrewd servant, right? I I love that parable. It's so basic because Jesus tells us exactly what it means, and we're like, man, this is really hard to understand. And it's like, no, no, it's not. He tells us to use unrighteous wealth to accrue righteous things. Like, how hard is that to understand? Don't
I
be
think
so
that should
stingy.
be
Spend your money for good things.
that should be the only question given to guys on their theological interview is, do you understand the parable of the unjust steward?
Oh yeah, another one that really kills me is Luke 18, the parable of the persistent widow. Like every commentary I've ever read is like, this is really difficult. It's like, you idiots. Luke tells us in verse 1, Jesus told this parable to the effect that we ought always pray and not lose heart. Like, what is hard to
Right,
understand about that?
right, right.
I mean, maybe it's just so
uh,
basic that we want it to mean more. And obviously there's implications for our lives. Maybe that's the problem. Like there's actually an ethical demand on the Christian for what we should do, and like we hate that.
yeah, and that's connected also to kind of what I was thinking as I was imagining like the assessment of your life. What have I accomplished? And the reason why you end up chasing things like say wealth or success or fame or whatever kind of things people might substitute, um, is because the things that are good are too little. They seem too little to us, right? So the point of the parable is that you don't pray as much as you should, and that's it. Like that, you don't need anything more than that. You don't need like some magic. You don't need a formula. You don't need a revelation. That doesn't even have to be. I mean, that's a fancy enough analogy to accomplish the task. We don't need any more illustration. Just you should pray more because God wants to hear you. And it's too little. It's too little for us. We're like, no, I wish Elisha would have waved his hand over the spot and told me to, do a jig or something, and then he would have healed me.
Gee. Well, for what it's worth, I'm toying with the idea of putting my epitaph on my tombstone as co-host of the CloudCast.
That's good. That's good. I was thinking about just by the by that we could call this the show formerly known as the CloudCast when I moved to Arkansas, and
Oh,
and
that's
then we
rich.
then we then we get a nice Minnesota reference in there, and we don't lose the our incredible branding. We don't lose it. It's just
All right, listeners, let us know if that works. The show formerly known as the CloudCast. I I like it. People keep harassing me about this live call in line.
Mm. I was thinking I should work on a technical solution to that. It wouldn't be hard. I'm gonna make myself a note. I'll figure it out.
Okay,
Live
I
calling.
don't know if you have to make it live, but like a voicemail box would be fun.
Hey, that's a good idea. That's an even better idea. Let's do it. Okay.
Just know this: if you call in, we can play your message on the podcast, and we're allowed to edit it to make you say whatever we want you to say.
And maybe attach your voice to an animated character of any description. It's possible that would happen.
Yeah, full disclosure. Yeah, that's that's good. You want to talk about this feast that these men have? I
Ooh.
remember reading Genesis with the college students, and one of my kids makes bread, and he's looking at the footnote. So verse 6, Abraham says, "Quick," and I think this implies unleavened bread. If she's going to make it quick, and of course you get unleavened bread in chapter 19, verse 3, with Lot. So I think we're both meant to see both of these things as preparing for the Exodus. But it's 3 seahs of flour, which, if you look at your footnote there in the ESV, about 7 quarts. So 21 quarts. This is more than 5 gallons of flour. Holy cow!
Yeah, it's a lot of bread. That's a lot of bread. I mean, so is it because it's not just for Abraham and the 3 men, but also for a household? Is that what's going on? Is it a household feast? It must be, right?
I, I mean that. Yeah, I think that would be the easiest explanation, which is great. So it's like God comes to a place, get the whole household together, right? And that's what
Yeah.
Abraham does. This is, I mean, we're talking about the role of a father. Um, and we know it's quite the amount of men because 318 of his household went and rescued Lot, right?
Right.
But
Right.
but it's great. It's great. He's like, quick, get 20 or 5 gallons of flour, quick. Do this quick.
Yeah. Quick, go slaughter the calf and roast it. Quick.
That's That's true. Yeah, this is where the joke was born. What are they doing? Slaughtering the cow back in the kitchen? This is this is where it came from.
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, they are.
But you see the Passover references because it's a calf, right? So it's a young animal.
Mhm.
Same thing with
Yeah.
the lamb. It's not quite a sheep. So it's in its. I mean, you see the Christological things going on here. You have
And
you have
what do you know
water.
about what do you know about
Yeah.
curds?
Um. Well, other than I like them fried. Obviously, there's biblical reference to curds. What do you know about curds?
Well, so I mean, I had always thought that okay, so you get curds when you ferment your milk. So you might make something like yogurt, or you might make cheeses of various kinds. And it always seemed to me that that curds were a sign of abundance, right? If you have more milk than you can drink, then you end up with curds. Um, I think that that's the case, right? So just like you get, where is it that there's that image of the you're gonna hitch your donkey to the grapevine, because you're not going to care that he eats all your grapes because you've got such abundance. It seemed to me that curds were the same kind of thing. Everyone, yeah, in Isaiah 7, right? Isaiah 7:2 is also 7 also is the he shall call his name Emmanuel, the virgin shall conceive, and he shall eat curds and honey when he knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, right? It's an abundance of instant an abundance of milk that leads you to have curds.
Hmm. So the picture here then, so it's overly abundant. I mean, this
Yeah,
is this is just an over the top feast.
I think so.
And milk, milk and honey. I mean, so this is a would you say this is a foretaste of the feast that is to come in the promised land?
Yeah, I mean, if it all fits together. Um, so now you got me thinking though about who's all eating this because okay, so five gallons is too much for 5 gallons of flour is way too much for um, four guys, Abraham and three men, but it's also not enough for 318. And it's reminding me though of like what happens when Joseph's brothers show up, and everybody gets a portion. And how much does Benjamin get? He gets like a seven-fold portion. So he's got like everybody else has got a normal size plate, and Benjamin's plate is heaped up seven times. It's hilarious. And the part of it is the excess. It's like, listen, man, and this is what makes for a great host, isn't it? There's more food on the table than you could ever eat, so you don't have to, for a moment, be concerned about being the guy who takes the last Dorito from the bowl, right? You don't have to worry about it.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, the guilt in that, and it's so funny psychologically at a party. Like one thing will sit on a plate for the entire night. Like it comes
Yeah,
down to
yeah,
one,
right,
right?
right.
It's like somebody eat it because I'm not putting this in Tupperware.
Yeah, yeah. Huh.
Have you ever won versus the buffet?
Have I ever won versus the buffet? I don't know what that would look like. What does that mean?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's up to you. But you go to a buffet and it's you versus the world. You got you spend $20 on this buffet. You better go get your $20 worth. Do you feel how do you feel at the end of that? And if you do win, do you really win? Because what's it like the next day?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I did. That does make me think about the all-you-can-eat sushi place, which is, you know, I win when I go there, especially when I go with all my kids, because we can pile away a lot of sushi, all of us together.
You want to go before you move?
I do. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, that sounds that sounds great. Um, anything else before we talk about these numbers? Because I do kind of want to go wild with 50, 45, 40, 30, and 20.
Yeah, we should do that. We don't have a ton of time left, so let's move to the numbers.
And maybe this might just be reading too much into it, but I do have this reaction whenever I see numbers. I want to think about, okay, why that particular number?
Okay. So what are you? Do you see something in the sequence here? 50, 45, 40, 30, 20, 10.
So it starts off. subtracting 5
Okay.
a couple times. Also, the first subtraction is 10%, so it's a tithe off of the top.
Okay.
So yeah, what does it mean to take some 5 away, right? and then 10 obviously. So those are biblical numbers. But then also the numbers themselves
Okay.
do appear quite frequently. So if we start with 50, and obviously this is a picture of substitutionary righteousness, right? Like God's not going to destroy the earth right now because there are faithful Christians living on it. Like that's the idea. The sad thing is he gets all the way down to 10 and God still can't find 10. Just like with Noah, finds nobody else except for, these righteous 8 living on the earth. And the sad thing is, even if it's Lot's household, how many in there are actually righteous? Because the sons-in-law think he's joking, which
Right.
is a great analogy for preaching when you're preaching the law and people don't take you seriously.
Because we could hope for what 6 righteous people in Lot's household. He, his wife, his 2 daughters, and his sons-in-law. And but even that is clearly not the case. His wife is not righteous, right? And his sons-in-law are not.
Yeah, yeah, and then his daughters, get him drunk and then sleep with him. So, is Lot the only righteous one? So Second Peter calls him righteous Lot. Is that why he calls him that? Because he's surrounded by unrighteousness. Even his own family is unrighteous. I mean, that's grace because God's gonna save them anyways, right? Because he's sending them with Lot because they're attached to him.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because it does paint a really very realistic picture of what happens when you torment your soul in the way that Lot did by staking his tent in the presence of such wicked people. He escapes, but as through fire, right? That's Paul's language. And the fire burns up. I mean, everybody, including his offspring, right? Because Moab and Ammon have nothing going for them except for Ruth, right? So he escapes, but through fire, and Ruth makes it. And then Jesus, I guess Jesus comes out of there too. But but
Yeah,
that's really a great picture.
that's nice. That's nice. I like that. So okay, so 50, um, year of Jubilee every 50 years, and then Pentecost would be the big numbers of 50,
Okay.
and he's gotta whittle that down. So you take 5 away, you get to 45. That's a tithe off the top. So apparently Joshua waited 45 years in the Promised Land, according to Joshua 14. That's what Caleb says. And maybe there's not anything to that, but it is this picture of faithfulness, and that's what God's looking for, right? Just a little bit of faithfulness. Um, that one's probably a stretch, but whatever. But then you get 40. Any comments on the number 40? Does it appear anywhere else
Right.
in the Bible? I can't
Yeah.
think of
Yeah.
anything else.
I mean, so that's interesting. Yeah, it's a time of always a span of testing and temptation, right? Where faith is tried. That's where you get 40, which fits nicely here.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep, absolutely. And then 30. I mean, this is like the age for everything in the Bible. You got David starts his reign at 30. Ezekiel starts his ministry at 30. Joseph is 30 when he goes to Egypt. Right? Is that when he becomes second in command? There something happens when he's 30 years old. Judas betrays Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. I mean that number's all over the place. And obviously
Which is the
Jesus
price of
Jesus
a
starts his ministry
slave.
at 30. Uh, is it? It depends on the. Doesn't it depend on the age? Because 20, that's what they pay for Joseph. But that's a young person, isn't it? You gotta let me know. I don't know the economics. I don't have it
Yeah,
memorized.
if an ox gores a slave, male or female, the owner shall give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall
Oh,
be
good.
stoned.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's for a mature one, and then 20 pieces for a
Hmm.
younger one, right? I think.
Maybe that sounds like it could be right.
Yeah, yeah. Joseph was sold for 20 shekels in Genesis. Also interesting about the number 30 though is oh no 20. Okay. So sorry. 30 is when like you're allowed to become like a Superman. Um Coincidentally, that's when you're allowed to become a US senator, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. So it's 25 for rep, 30 for senator, and 35 for president.
That sounds right.
I'm I mean, we we do so much poo-pooing of the founding fathers of America, but I mean, holy smokes, those guys were bright. I
Yeah.
heard the was it the presiding bishop of the Episcopalian Church? I haven't read this letter. I heard about it. I need to go read it. Obviously, what has happened to the Episcopalians. What's amazing though is how many of the founding fathers were Episcopalians. Man, they got a lot of money, more than 30 pieces of silver.
Which is, of course, a root of your downfall, right? When you've got a lot of money, it makes you lax. It, makes you lazy.
Well, yeah, I think about this. Like, how many churches have so much money, and yet the pews, the poos, are empty. Like,
Yeah.
what? I mean, what would you rather have? Empty pews, but you never have to worry about the budget, or you're struggling with the budget, but you got a living, vibrant church. Obviously, you'd want both, and I think there's a problem when you have a living, vibrant church and the offering number looks so low, even though the net income of the people of the congregation should, like, it should not be that way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the difference between storing things up and living by your daily bread, right? Because if you have people in the pews who are attending to the gospel, they will give proportionally, but they're not giving, like, it's not the same thing as, like, say, having an endowment where this is going to give in perpetuity regardless of who shows up at church, right? That's much more like saving the manna over till tomorrow, right? And it always does run the risk of breeding worms and stinking.
Yeah, we should take both principles though, because in a sense, don't you want to preach as if you don't care if anybody comes back?
Yes, that's right. And one of the things that makes that possible is if there's enough money where you don't have to, like, you don't worry about it, right?
Right, right. So I fully well say that. Also knowing we are called to be shepherds and to care for the sheep, right? So like, see, this is the two truths can be true. This all comes back to the incarnation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's great. That in our fallen human nature, things that should belong together according to uh, in divine ordering. So take for instance mercy and justice, um, where, like, there's no essential conflict between these two things in God. It's not as though he does contradictory things when he is just and merciful. But for us, it's always like the pendulum has swung too far one way or the other, or it's off balance, it's off kilter, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Oh, I was on a thought. So 30 is when you're allowed to, take these offices like king, priest. 20 though is when you're eligible for military service and you have to start paying the temple tax. So that's when you become like a citizen.
10 is the Decalogue.
And then, yeah, 10's the Decalogue. So this is, covenant order. This is the basic unit of addition and subtraction. This is what really holds society together is 10. You need 10 for a synagogue, which isn't incidental.
Why? Okay, so this makes me wonder what Abraham was thinking. Why did he stop at 10? Did he say to himself, surely Lot has gathered together enough people for a synagogue, and 10 is a safe bet? Surely that's what Lot has done.
That's yeah, maybe, or maybe he just doesn't want to be ridiculous. I don't know. Do you think Abraham thinks it's a hopeless cause?
Why
Because
would he undertake it at all if he thought it was hopeless? That's what it seems to me, right?
well, so the question is, will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? And the answer is no, because God does save Lot.
Yeah.
Right? So God's always going to save his righteous. Even if there's not 10, he's still going to save the righteous.
Okay.
I do
So
wonder.
go ahead.
I do wonder what the population of Sodom was. Like, what's the percentage?
Right. Right. I wonder if there's some significance besides the decrease in numbers that he's working with, uh, to the number of times that he asks. Right. So he asks 6 times, and if the number is not quite so significant, that is to say, like, if he's simply trying to establish that God is not going to sweep away the righteous with the wicked, which really doesn't depend on the number at all, as is evident, right? If there's one righteous person, he's not going to sweep away the righteous with the wicked. So the actual number doesn't actually matter. But establishing that God would not do that does matter. And so I wonder if that's the reason for his sixfold repetition of the question. He's like, I'm going to ask God until this point is established thoroughly, right?
Okay, yeah. So like a hexameron, a new creation of of God's order. Sure, that's great. And of course, the ultimate answer is if there's one, right? Like all it takes is one righteous person.
Right.
Obviously being Christ.
Yeah.
But the sad thing is, you know, where where are the righteous? I find not one.
Yeah. When the Son of Man returns, will he find faith on earth? Right. Oof.
Yeah. So this is a bigger question, but like, could you get away with preaching like Jesus?
Uh, could you get away with it? Yeah, I don't know. Huh. I'm trying to think of like in what sense would they drive you out of the pulpit? Would they drive would they drive you out of the church if you preached like Jesus? I mean, he certainly doesn't um, he doesn't exhibit the kind of tact that is expected of a preacher.
Yeah, I think about this. Most of the people didn't actually understand what he was saying, right? That's why he spoke in
Right.
parables. And then the ones who did understand it, for the most part, wanted to kill him. But then,
And
but oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and they want to kill him because they know he's talking about them. And this is something I regularly reflect on when I preach a sermon where I begin to realize it's usually after the fact and not in anticipation. But after the fact, I begin to realize that any number of people in the congregation may well think that I'm talking about them, that I've got them in mind while I'm preaching this. And I play out then this conversation in my head where they, like they may come to me and be upset. Why were you being so on the nose about my situation? And I'm like, were you talking about me in your sermon? And the answer would be like, I don't know, was I? You know whether I'm talking about you or not. And if I was, then did you listen? And if I wasn't, like if it doesn't apply, then there's nothing to be upset about. But that's exactly the point with the people who want to kill him, is right? They're upset because what he said applied, and they just didn't want to hear it. Right?
That's right. But then obviously he's got crowds of people following him around who listen as well. So it's like four types of soil.
Yeah. Yeah. We certainly are not left. I mean, I think that the post mill thing is it's nice to be optimistic, but the Bible sure doesn't leave you with the sense that things are going to grow in an observable way, right? That we're going to experience some sort of lasting kingdom of God on earth. The Bible, at no point in the history of the Bible is that the pattern, right?
Yeah. I was laughing. Somebody last week asked me if I was pre, mid, or post trib. I was like, it's like I don't. It's like no, this is what's great about Lutheran eschatology, right? Like we don't deal with it. It's like it's really simple. Jesus is coming back, and that's going to be it. Okay, next question.
Yeah, next question. That's right. That's right. That's why we do have to get Rory back on so he can explain to us why Left Behind is not representative of dispensationalism. That would be nice.
We will have him on for that episode. I will be wearing a tinfoil hat.
That's good. That's good.
Looking forward to it, Rory. Love you, buddy.
Anything else about 18? This is good.
No, I'm looking forward to talking about Sodom and Gomorrah next week. This will be
perfect.
This will be great. And if we want to make it really spicy, we'll do a side-by-side comparison with Judges 19.
That'll be excellent. We'll talk then.
Cool.
All right. Stop.
Yeah, see you then.